To order the special meeting of the Santa Barbara School Board for June 23rd, 2011, and we will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, we do have Spanish translation today.
Good morning. Buenos días, mi nombre es Sandra Trujillo y soy la intérprete para la reunión de esta mañana. Si alguien necesita de los servicios de interpretación, pueden venir a hablar conmigo y para proveerles unos audífonos. Gracias. Thank
Okay,
you.
gracias, Ms. Trujillo. Okay, we also have headsets for the hearing impaired, if anybody needs those. We will begin the meeting by accepting public comments at this time. Are there any public comments? Sorry. This is for items that are not on the agenda? Did you wish to speak to an item that's not on the agenda? Okay.
We have one public comment, Gina Perry.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm not a morning person, so I will do the best I can to read through this. Dear members of the board, and I'm speaking for PEPS, for the PEPS Indoor Air Quality Committee. We want to thank you and the district for your actions toward resolving the indoor air quality and mold problems at Washington School. We realize this isn't a problem that you tackle every day. We are speaking today in the hope of providing help in finding the best and least costly avenue to resolve these problems. As you know, Panacea's testing objectively revealed data which shows first, dangerously inadequate ventilation, and second, the presence of toxigenic mold in all classrooms tested. If you read your email yesterday or picked up the email I sent you, you'll also know that my family is directly affected by the air quality and the mold. These findings put the burden of responsibility on both the school district administration and the school board to provide a safe environment for the 200+ children that will be asked to re-enter school at the end of August. Unfortunately, the initial district plan is to take over 1 year to address the ventilation problem and an unspecified amount of time to approach the mold, and then only in a piecemeal pattern. Both of these problems, ventilation and mold, must be addressed urgently for health reasons. In terms of ventilation, we have discovered a way to replace the HVAC units in 1 week, not 1 year. We've emailed this information to each of you and to Mr. Hetyoung. It's my understanding that Mr. Hetyoung forwarded that to the architect. I'm not quite sure what happened, but I think you approved an architect to look at the whole process. So he forwarded that information to the architect yesterday. While we recommend competitive bidding, the solution comes from Bard, who is the manufacturer of most of the HVAC units at Washington and a company with vast experience in working with schools throughout California. According to Bard, they have performed this type of swap on numerous occasions. There's no reason to expose incoming children next year to dangerously inadequate ventilation. It would save an enormous amount of time and money to use either this company or another company who is competent in swapping out these units. In terms of mold, the toxigenic mold must be immediately fixed because it poses a significant health risk and liability issue. Think sick building syndrome. And because if the HVAC systems are replaced before the mold is fixed, there is danger of contaminating the new HVAC systems and just continuing the problem. We recommend immediate employment of a qualified abatement company such as ServiceMaster. Abating the mold now makes sense on a medical and moral level, but also on a financial level.
30 seconds.
We'd like to be included in the strategy for implementing the solutions for the HVAC systems and the mold, and know we can offer expertise in these areas. We realize, again, this isn't something the district deals with every day. And time, of course, for us is of the essence. We recognize this 3-minute format doesn't do justice to the severity of this issue. And we'd like to be added, I'm not quite sure how to request this, but we'd like to be added to an agenda for a 10-minute segment. And we're also trying to open up more conversations with the district. I don't know how we get included in that, but we'd certainly like to. We've also requested an urgent meeting with Dr. Cash. So again, we appreciate anything you can do to speed this process along at Washington. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Perry.
Is it possible,
Does that conclude public comment?
is it possible,
That does conclude public comment.
Yeah,
is
I'm
it
sorry, Mr.
possible
Herron.
to, it's too late to get on the agenda for this next meeting.
It's
Yeah.
too, yeah, it's, we
So-
have that agenda set.
So
But
the first meeting in July?
most likely, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Yes, if, Ms. Perry, if you could request to be added to the agenda in writing to the superintendent's office, that's the formal process, but certainly aware that you want to be on the July, 12th, isn't it? July 12th.
Right,
meeting.
and we just have one meeting in July.
We only have one meeting in July, yeah, so, okay. Okay, then we will move on to our first agenda item, item B1, approval of employment contract for Assistant Superintendent of Special Education. And Dr. Sarvis is not here. His father is ailing, and he is attending to family matters. But this is an item that we have seen or discussed in closed session. This is a request to change, to offer our current Executive Director of Special Education a contract for Assistant Superintendent of Special Education at a fiscal impact of $8,000 additional to the general fund, and a 3-year contract. Are there any questions from the board or comments? Ms. Deegan?
First of all, I will say the details of the employment contract are available
Yes.
to the public. And I support this because I think we know that Dr. Mills has made great strides in special education. It's important for us that she continue her work in the district. And I believe that her duties are commensurate with this new title. And so I'm really happy to be able to support this. I think like I said, we've made great strides. We want to keep making strides. We know that special education will always be something that is never finished because we always need to keep improving, as we do in all areas. But I think it's important to give her the support that she needs so she can do her job the way we want her to.
Ms. Lamone?
I also am supporting this, and I think although some folks in the community may say, wow, there's not a lot of assistant superintendents in special ed, I also think that this speaks to the need for our district, which may be different in other districts. And I think that it is something that I also hope will send a bigger message to all of our educators in the district, as well as this is an area of priority for the district and has been for some time. So those are my comments.
Great. Mr. Herron?
I'm going to take a little bit different tact. First of all, I support Dr. Carrie very much in everything she does. I think she's done a great job. As I've expressed, my concern is purely timing. The last meeting before we have a new superintendent, I'm going to abstain from voting purely on a matter of principle from a timing standpoint, and I just think this is not the right time or place to do this.
Well, I just want to echo some of the other comments that were made, in that I think not only is this appropriate for the reasons that were stated earlier, but also that I think it represents the kind of authority that we believe that Dr. Mills has and that we would like for her to have in terms of our special education program and how well we can convey that to the rest of the district staff and administrators. So with that, I will call for a motion.
I will move to approve the employment contract for Assistant Superintendent Special Education and let's see, for Dr. Carrie Mills.
Is there a second?
I will second.
Okay, All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Aye. Okay. So motion carries 3-0 with 1 abstention. And Ms. Parker on vacation. Okay. Okay, that brings us to our conference agenda, item C1, the first reading of the tentative agreement language between the Santa Barbara School Districts and the California School Employees Association, or CSEA, Chapter 37. Ms. Jeté, I think you are going to be presenting this to us. We're very happy that we have a tentative agreement.
Yes, as
Thank
we
you.
are. As you know, that this is the first reading of the tentative agreement between CSEA and the Santa Barbara School District. Yesterday, the union voted unanimously to ratify this tentative agreement, and so we're here to ask for your first approval. Any questions? It's very similar to SBTA, the teachers'
Yes.
agreement.
Actually, we will not be approving this. This is just the first reading so that we can place it on for approval on our next agenda.
Okay.
Now, I believe we have public comment on this item
Oh.
too, and Mr. Herron, did you
No,
want to
no,
speak?
go ahead.
Okay.
We have one public comment, Paul Rooney.
On behalf of CSEA Chapter 37, I would like to thank the board for your support and perspective during the previous months of budget crisis. I trust you will review our tentative agreement and with the soon-to-be Santa Barbara Unified School District and conclude that it meets the needs of all parties involved. As the year progresses, let us all focus our intent on the state legislature, putting aside personal agendas, and do what is right for our children. They need to stop feeding fear to the media and provide us with the enlightenment we elected them for. There is a lesson for all of us in these times of enhanced challenges, and we all individually need to see that personal lesson and recognize the common good in all of us. Thank you again.
Thank you, Mr. Rooney. Mr. Herron?
Yeah, can you refresh my memory as to why all the RIFs are being rescinded except for child nutrition services, 18 food service assistants and 4 satellite food service operators?
Regarding the child development.
No, I don't care about that one. How about the other one?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Child nutrition services, 18 people, or 18 positions, I guess.
Most of those positions were upgraded to food service assistant 2. We don't have very many
Okay.
service assistants 1.
Thank
So
you.
we're eliminating those positions.
Thank you.
Okay, any additional questions?
I don't have a question per se, but just a comment, just for the public to make sure they understand what we're doing here and what the ratification involves. These are furloughs that are contingent on the state budget and how much we may or may not gain in the final product. And I have to say, John Chang did something very interesting by deciding to withhold the salaries of our legislators, and they seem to be much more engaged very quickly. So hopefully we will get a budget that will be the one that we want, that ultimately resolves itself in such a way that we don't have to do any furloughs. But at least we might do them in a graduated way, but we're going to be able, provided we pass this next week, to basically offer our folks their jobs back again. And so it's a good outcome. It's a hard outcome. I'm sorry we have to go to furloughs the same way that we've done with the teachers. But again, it's a contingency plan, and it will only happen if the state budget forces us to do that.
Thank you. And I'd just like to thank the district and also CSEA for the willingness to work together to reach a tentative agreement in such, a difficult climate, financial climate. And I think it's really praiseworthy that both of our bargaining units were willing to, consider and ultimately adopt the possibility of furloughs in order to maintain the employment for most of our staff. And so I think that's to be highly commended, and I appreciate the work that Mr. Rooney, that your unit did, and also the district. So thank you very much. And I think that has served our district extremely well. Okay, so we will move on. This will come back to us at our next meeting for approval. Okay, so at this point, I am going to close the board meeting and open the public hearing regarding the approval of proposed 2011-2012 transfer of funds from Tier 3 categorical programs per Education Code Section 42605. And so at this point, we are in public hearing. And are there any public comments? No. Okay. Mr. Tay, did you want to briefly explain this item?
Surely. Each year, we have to, by Ed Code, bring a proposal to you that we are going to sweep the ending fund balance in instructional materials and the 30% sweep in the Tier 3. And this has to be done in a public hearing. So this is why we're doing, we always have to do it prior to adopting our adopted budget.
Okay. So are there any questions or comments on this item? Mr. Herron?
On the cover sheet, it says we need to talk about the proposed use of the funding. So can you tell us what the proposed use of the funding is?
Yes, right now, as last weekend, I finished the adopted budget, and we have about a $900,000 surplus in our operating budget as we stand right today, as of this moment in time. And $350,000 of this is from the 50% that we swept on March 18th or March 8th to help with the budget deficit. And I just want to remind everyone that out of that $900,000 as of the adopted budget, $750,000 of that is this sweep. And I know that we have some other issues that I'm sure you're all aware of regarding the CONAP and how being unified has kind of changed the whole formula of how we're funded, and we won't know the results of that until December. And so our request is that we leave it as it is, the $750,000, not to give it back to the sites, and hold on to that until we know what kind of backfilling we have to do for EIA or any of the other items on the CONAP. And I'm going to try to answer as many of those kinds of questions as I can. I was hoping that Cynthia White, Dr. White, would be here, but I'll try to answer your questions.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Tay. Ms. Lamone?
So it's my understanding that we're not completely sure how the formula is changing and what that's going to translate to for the district. But can you provide any additional information as to, is it really sounding like it's going to be less because of the unification and the role of unification? Anything you can provide, because at this point, I'm not sure that.
It's interesting because on a daily basis, it depends who you talk to at the state level. I got a call from Cynthia, Dr. White, yesterday, and we are going to have a conference call the end of next week with someone who's on vacation right now up at the state, but supposed to be the formula guru person. So we would like to have an open conversation with this person to find out if we can do some sort of quick down and dirty on regarding the money in EIA. EIA is the one that's most affected that we can find out right now. But we are, as a district, we are obligated to give them money. So my point is that whatever they lose, we probably will be able to give them money somewhere, but the only pot of money we have is the 50% of the 70% there that we know we can use. We'll know more next week, so maybe we can give you an update on the 28th. No, I guess we'll know later after the 28th. So we'll do a board brief or something regarding that conversation. But it depends on who you speak to at the state of California. So our proposition, you know, what we would like to do is get something in writing that says this is the way we figure it, this is the way we want you to do it, and we'll do it that way and get it in writing, because tomorrow it could be somebody else that says something completely different.
And so this is a direct result of the new formula based on unification.
That's what I understand.
Okay. And from where you stand now, do you foresee this happening, the formula changing for any other program? Because at least for me personally, I didn't realize that this was going to be a product of unification. Not that it outweighs unification in any way, and I want everyone in the community to be aware of. It doesn't outweigh, this is not significant enough to outweigh what we were getting from unification, but anything else that,
You know, I can only answer on the fiscal side of this, that I had no idea that unification would have any effect on our English language learners. I mean, I don't understand that at all. That's not my area, but I mean, we've done everything in fiscal to dot our i's and cross our t's as much as we can, but these little things also keep coming up on our side that we never thought about. So I just don't know. I can't really answer that. What's hidden under the rocks under unification?
thank you.
Okay, any additional questions or comments?
Can
Okay.
I just jump in and say that it's our discretion how much we sweep out of the categorical funding, ultimately the board's discretion, so that if we felt that any programs that were really significant to our students, we certainly would have the option to restore that funding as a board. So I just want to make it that clear as well.
Okay, so at this time, the board needs to approve or disapprove the proposed use of the funding presented in Exhibit A. So do we have a motion in that regard
I'll move
to approve?
to approve.
Okay, is there a second?
I will second.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, motion carries 4-0. With that, I will close the public hearing and reopen our board meeting. Is there any further discussion on this item from the board? Hearing none, we will move on to adjournment. Okay? Are there any further questions or comments? Nope. Okay, our next meeting will be on June 28th at our regular time. I don't recall the time. I think I think it will start at 6:30, but I'm not sure what time our closed session will start. So we will see that. Thank you very much, staff members who were here. And with that, we will adjourn.